DBA, build an index in PostgreSQL, but still your explain plan shows a sequential scan. That doesn't mean your index has been broken. It usually means Postgres has a better plan in mind. So many of the DBAs assumes like index guarantees the speed. Postgres only uses when the cost is worth it. If the table has too many rows matches, the table is tiny, and the statistics are stable or the statistics are outdated, the planner may ignore the index for the purpose. Here is the real question: why the PostgreSQL ignore the indexes which we created? What PostgreSQL seeing that I am missing it? A function on the column type mismatch or even a stale analyzed data can completely change the plan. Welcome to my notes Oracle DBA YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to see the deep dive detail of the most pain point in the performance tuning, why indexes get ignored even though we have created properly. Okay, so the first check: when the query actually matches the index definition, you have to wrap a column function of like lower or upper. If the data type has been doesn't match, PostgreSQL may not able to use the indexes efficiently. Second, if the filter columns matches a large percentage of a table, a sequential scan can be the faster than bouncing through the index and fetching the row values. The third point, PostgreSQL need a fresh statistics. So when you will get the fresh statistics, so either that particular table has been get updated to auto vacuum. So you know already about that. So automatically it performs a vacuum and analyze based on the threshold value and a few parameters, right? So alternatively, if you want to immediately pick up the index, the best practice is you have to create an index, then you have to perform manual analyze against the particular table, which updates the statistics up to date, and based on that, it will give the better result in your during your taken off explain plan. So we are going to see that slide demo about that. So how we are going to create a table and some insertion values, followed by we are going to verify that in which scenario, even though that indexes has been created, so some of the scenarios it is taking the sequential scan, some of the things it is taking that index scan is not picked up, and all the things, the takeaway of that everything we are going to see in detail. So let's switch back into the demo, so which is SQL -p 5433. So that database version is 15.14. So for the demo purpose, what we are going to do, I'm going to create a table. So the tables creation script which is already present over here, I'm going to just do the copy paste. So my table has been created. So if you see that my table name is orders underscore demo, right? Next, so once the table has been created, what is the next step? So we are going to add or inserted few records on this table, right? So here you can see that I've just pasted these records on this table. 1 lakh records has been inserted on this table, right? Now t plus command. So let's verify that. So that order ID, which means ID is a primary key, that primary key as a indexes by automatically, right? Now we are going to create a one more index manually using the create index. So the IDX always followed by orders underscore demo, and at the end we have to mention the column name on. So the table name is orders underscore demo, and the column has to be mentioned here status. So once I have done, so the index has been created, right? Now as a thumb rule, whenever you have created an index, either you can perform a manual analysis against the full table, or you can do it on the particular column of the table. So I'm going to use that analyze of this particular table. So analyze has been done the job to update the statistics up to the level. Verify the planner, explain analyze. So alternatively we can do explain analyze buffers settings, select of select the star from the table orders underscore demo. I'm gonna use where the status equals delivered. Even though we have created a index on the table orders demo, but it still chooses the sequential scan. Here actually what is happening, query matches of very few rows, so the index is much more likely to be used. So here actually, even though the index has been created on the status column, but the delivered count, we can verify the how much count over there. Select count of star. So almost 95,000 records are there. Okay, now if I'm gonna use the same open, so which is minimal. Okay, let's verify the same one for open state. So here you can see the difference between the status delivered and the status which is open. So here actually the table which matches the minimal number of rows, which uses the, even though the indexes are there, which picks the index scan, which means your indexes. If the table have the many number of rows, so the records may match the minimally over there, so it still chooses the sequential scan only. For this one, the number of rows were getting impacted is 95,000 rows. So the actual number of cost for the sequential scan is 227. So that almost 5,000 records were removed and buffer sheet. So everything has been done. Okay, so here it is using that. But when it comes to the index scan, you can see the actual number of rows is 1,000. So which directly uses that index scan. So Postgres uses the index only scan when it thinks they are very cheaper, right? So selective filters maybe benefit when more than an index scan. That's why the broad filters and mismatch predicates can stop the index usage entirely. The index doesn't have a proper statistics, or maybe sometimes what will happen, even though the statistics are up to date, sometimes the indexes cannot be picked because those indexes have the index bloat. Because of the bloat, sometimes Postgres ignore those indexes, so we have to perform either reindex or reindex concurrently. Okay, so which reduces or remove the blots from the indexes whenever you are getting the index issue, right? So first we have to analyze whether the index has been properly created, so the indexes have getting blotted, or alternatively the vacuum. So this parameter by default is on. So what we are going to do, either at your transaction level or at the session level, we can just forcefully to pick the index. We can do this one. So once I done the sequential scan turned off, right, let's verify the delivered status, so which is the same 95,000 records. Now we are going to verify that. See, once I done that sequential scan, disable it at the session level, so my indexes getting picked up, but you have to verify the total number of cast. So when it was picking that actual of sequential scan, which uses the 227, but when it uses the uh, index scan, which using the 263, so that's why that Postgres always picks the cheaper plan. That's why it was taking a sequential scan. So when you are doing these kind of things, so you have to use the R&D method on your lower environment before tuning the things at your production, because if you are directly keeping your hand on the production, it may affect the other queries too. So I would recommend always please prefer to test and tune the parameters at your lower environment, because which gives you the more clarity query was doing it, how it impacts the other query as well. Okay, so the tuning is not directly tuning one query, you have to think about other queries as well, so while choosing this kind of options, right? And so what maybe can go the wrong? Okay, so while the indexes can be go on with the upper and lower function, which means so you have created the value for my nodes as a upper value, when you are using the function on your query only, that index has been picked. So if you are provided the upper value, but when you are trying to pull the data as a lower value, so that time also the index can or indexes cannot be picked up. And second thing is, so you are using that having the like or so these kind of situations, so you have to very carefully handle on your query. And second thing is, as I mentioned about the planner always to be up to date. So because the Postgres picks the plan based on the cost base, so if the statistics are up to date, it will use the latest statistics, and the planner also picks the cheaper cost based on the statistics value. So you have to always verify that whether the analysis has been performed when it was done, so you can get the details of using that this DSC. Alternatively, you can use only one table where rel name equals orders underscore demo. So here you can see that there was a number of live tuples, red tuples. The when was the last vacuum has been performed, auto vacuum has been done, last analyze, because we have performed manually analyze. That's why you are able to see these details, right? And the third thing is to verify that whether the index is valid or not. index rel id which class and is valid from pg index, so where ind rel id, so we have to mention our table name. So the table name is orders, I believe orders demo, orders demo reg class. So this is valid. You can see that here actually it says true. If it in case the false in the sense, what you need to do, so you that invalid things, either you can drop it or you can try reindexes, because the reindex sometimes which helps to fix that invalid indexes. So or else alternatively you can drop the index and recreate it. And the last one is the Postgres always thinks to check the first of the selectivity, which means how much of the table does this query actually match, and the statistics, has the analysis has been done recently, what is the estimated cost or estimated statistics. And the query shape, like as I mentioned earlier, the query shape was like how you have written the query, either you are using any lowercase uppercase of data, or you are using that where function or like functions. In the next time if you see that index has been ignored, so you will follow the checklist like to verify the table, and whether that planner is picking properly or not, this is the expected behavior or not, whether the reindexes are working fine or not, and how much the query was written, the structure you will go to verify the structure, and last analysis has been done. So these are the things you have to keep in your mind, right? I hope you will get something in this video. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.